I made a hot tub 2 years ago, but it broke down. The thermal insulation peeled off on its own, or the water peeled it off. Maybe the tub was damaged somewhere, or the glue I used to glue the styrofoam came off. This project has unfortunately failed, and I will have to make a new hot tub. I use the same barrel. I will cover the faucet opening with a duct tape. It's easier when you have a faucet to drain the water, but I don't want to risk leaking water at that place and damaging the thermal insulation. I stick duct tape on the inside as well. If it has a bulge in the middle of the barrel, cut it into styrofoam. I use hard thermal insulation for the bottom of the barrel. You can also use a different thermal insulation for the bottom of the barrel. Keep in mind that insulation does not crack under your feet and that it provides thermal protection of the water in the barrel. Make sure the insulation stays in place, as we will rotate the barrel. We put duct tape on the wall of the barrel. If you do not have double-sided adhesive tape, then use a single-sided. This way you make a double-sided adhesive tape. The function of this tape is to keep in place the insulation that we put on the wall of the barrel. I have a used sponge. Its thickness is 2.5 inches, around 5 centimeters. I will use this sponge to insulate the barrel. You can use whatever you want to insulate the barrel. Tighten the sponge. A plain, thick blanket can be used for insulation purposes if you have nothing better. This is a homemade hot tub, and use whatever you want for the construction material. I recommend you use a sponge because it is cheap and easy to install in barrel. Cut off the excess sponge. Let the sponge be at the height of the barrel. Glue the sponge. The sponge cannot fit evenly into my barrel because the geometric shape of the barrel does not allow it, so I have to adjust the sponge to the shape of the barrel. The sponge is good because it is very soft. When you are in the barrel, the sponge will adjust to your body and will not hurt you at the points of contact with the body. Fill the empty space with pieces of sponge. With the sponge, it will be easier for you to get in and out of the barrel, while the hard thermal insulation is not as flexible or comfortable as a sponge. Wherever needed, add piece of sponge. We put the tape behind the sponge this way, or better yet, if we have double-sided adhesive tape. We put the duct tape so that the sponge doesn't fall off, and then it disrupts the functioning of the hot tub. When adjusting the insulation, cut off any excess. This is how you make a single-sided tape to be a double-sided tape. Connect the two sides of the tape. Make sure that the entire barrel is aligned with thermal insulation inside. This barrel has a volume of 200 liters of water, and my water boiler has capacity of 50 liters of water. I have to reduce the volume of the barrel. In places where there is too much empty space, I will install insulation to reduce the required amount of water. The largest empty space is in the front of the chest. I want 50 liters of water in a barrel with capacity of 200 liters to be above my shoulders, so I have to reduce the internal volume of the barrel. For health reasons, it is very important that the neck is in the water and that we can dive our head into the water. Since I dive my head alternately into cold and warm water in contrast therapy, I have no more headaches. Many of us have a problem with the cervical spine, and that is why it is important that the water level exceeds the neck. I will adjust this part of the insulation to the shape of the barrel. You can fill this empty space with anything. You can put a pillow. To me, the sponge is more practical than a pillow. If you don't have such a thick piece of sponge, take a thinner sponge and roll it into a larger piece. Shape the sponge as needed. This piece is placed at the chest height and should not interfere with the knees. My boiler temperature is at maximum. That means 50 liters of hot water and another 10 liters of cold water, and I get the ideal water temperature and the ideal water height. During the winter, you may have to heat an additional 10 liters of water on the stove, because in winter the water from the tap is much colder. Many of us have a problem with the cervical spine, and that is why it is important that the water level exceeds the neck. Go inside and make sure that additional pieces of insulation do not bother you. Everything seems optimal to me. When you are in the barrel, check where the excess insulation is and cut it off. The sponge is good because it is soft, and when you enter the barrel, in places where the body touches it, it will not hurt you. If the insulation is hard, as I had in the first hot tub, then its edges could hurt you. Soft insulation can always be compressed under body pressure. So I think this type of sponge is the best option for this tight hot tub, not only in terms of practicality, but also in terms of cheapness and speed of its construction. Here it is. This part of the job is done. Everything is aligned and ready. I have this piece left, and it will come in handy to reduce the volume of the barrel in the upper part. One of the goals of this hot tub is not to consume additional electricity and water. Usually hot tubs are much bigger, and then we need a large amount of hot water, and those are all additional costs. We also need more space to set up those tubs. Check everything. Everything looks great and comfortable. Those big hot tubs require a lot more time and work to prepare and maintain, and all that can be avoided by using an already existing water heater from which you take a shower. In this way, instead of taking a shower from your boiler, you use the same time and water to perform contrast therapy. Secure this extra piece of sponge with duct tape. It is very important that we don't have additional costs of water and electricity. If your hot tub has too much volume, then you have to heat a large amount of water, and electricity is expensive. I sometimes do contrast therapy 3 times in 24 hours, and imagine how much would cost time and money if I used a large hot tub. This way the water I use for the shower, I just use for the hot tub. Don't forget that hot bath goes in combination with a cold bath. It's called contrast therapy, and you have my video on it. I have another tub with cold water in it. We can add salt to hot bath. I always add a pound of sea salt to hot water. I do water therapy at least twice a day. Sometimes I do twice contrast therapy, and sometimes 1 shower and 1 contrast therapy. Now we install nylon or some other waterproof material. For the first hot tub, I use a tarp. We take shower while standing, and if we have problems with the spine, then gravity compresses the spinal discs. But when you are in a tub, you are floating in water. The spinal discs separate because there is no gravity. So when you float in hot and then in cold water, then both heat and cold reach between the injured joints and spinal discs, and this has a healing effect on any inflammation. When you install the nylon, enter the barrel and fit it under your feet so that it does not tighten anywhere. The nylon under your feet must be loose. If it is tight, you will tear it with your feet, especially when there is hot water in the tub. Remember, it's not about aesthetics, it's about functionality. Hot-cold showering is very useful, But contrast therapy is even more useful. In contrast therapy, you float in water and all your joints are relieved, which is much more useful than just a cold hot shower. Everyone should have hot cold tubs. I keep mine in the garage. Place them in the yard or anywhere else. Cold hot tubs are very important for our health. Cut off the excess nylon. Let's fasten the first nylon. We will place 2 layers of nylon to make sure that water doesn't leak towards the tub insulation. Nylon can be punctured, and this way there is less chance of both nylons leaking water. I have a new video for you what happens after 40 days of contrast therapy. It was recorded in my native language and I need to translate it into English. When buying nylon, it is possible that the seller will damage it during cutting. It happened to me, but luckily I discovered that damage. Only that little cut the salesman unintentionally made could ruin my project. Spread the nylon and inspect it for holes. I did it and discovered in time that the nylon was damaged. I left the nylon with the hole outside the barrel, and I put another layer of nylon just in case. If one layer of nylon leaks, then the other may not. I have been using this hot tub for over 8 months, and the nylon have not leaked. Go inside and fit the second layer of nylon properly. Do not tighten the nylon under your feet. You can use some other waterproof material instead of nylon. My suggestion is to do this part of the job as safely as possible, because if water leaks and soaks the sponge, you will have to throw the sponge away and do it all over again. It has happened to me once before. Secure the nylon in place and reinforce the barrel with stainless steel strip. After many times in and out, my barrel cracked at the edges because it's made of thin plastic. Had it not been for the metal strip, the barrel would have completely split. If your barrel is made of strong material, then instead of metal strip, you may fasten your nylon just with duct tape. Cut off the excess nylon. You will not regret building this hot tub. But remember, this is not a magic formula that will cure all your health problems, but you will definitely have great health benefits from contrast therapy. You don't have to have a jacuzzi, you don't have to pay for swimming pools or some special healing baths, because you have all that and better than that with this hot tub. It will cost you less than $50 and it will take you about 2 hours to make it. The hot tub is done.
Here, let me show you how I am connecting hot tub with the water. This is garden hose, goes all the way to the tub. Here I have connector. I have a valve. This is valve. You can buy it in a hardware store or wherever. Wherever you are buying stuff for water installation. You remove this piece from the hose, shower hose, you take it off, the seal needs to remain in, you connect the valve. The valve is not necessary, I'm not using it. If you want to use a valve, that's fine. I connect the valve to the shower hose. Then I put this connector on the valve and I slide in just connector, plastic connector in the garden hose. And here we go. When I need to turn hot water on, I just move to the left and turn on. When I need cold water, I just move to the right and I got me cold water. So this is how I fill out my hot tub. And I'm doing through window because I have access through window. I don't need to come in the house. Just put my arm here and from outside manipulating with this thing. Okay? Let me show you how the garden hose goes all the way to the hot tub. Here we go. Here is the garden hose. I just put my arm in and I turn on water. And during the summer, when it's really hot, I keep my hot and cold tubs in garage. Here we go, here we go. Where is the light? Where is the light? Now we're gonna get some light. Here we go. The garden hose goes all the way into hot tub. I did last night around midnight. Very late. I finished my training and I did my... Here is the hose. I don't want to move it because I have to drain the water out. I will show you how. Don't mind if my garage is a mess. And this is cold one. Here is cold. Both are here. Beautiful. Man, this is so useful for recovery, body recovery after training. Without this, without contrast therapy, I would not be able to exercise. My spine would hurt so much, my joints, I would not be able. But after training, maybe 45 minutes, 1 hour, I do contrast therapy and I recover my body, that I'm able next day again train. So here we go. Now I'm going to show you how I drain. You see the hose goes all the way out. All the way out. And this is a little higher ground. And I am able to use gravity to pull, to drain the water out from the hot tub. I have to close. I don't want dust and insects. I don't want dust and insects entering my tubs. I keep my garage door closed. I don't want heat to enter in. And let me show you now what I do. Once I'm done with contrast therapy, I just fill out the hose a little with cold water. Okay, here's connection not good, but it's okay. I didn't tight. Always check that everything is tight, that you don't have flood in your house or in garage or wherever you are having this system. Now the hose is filled. I disconnect the hose and let me show you how gravity takes care of it. That's it. And my hot tub gets empty completely.
Here is a hot tub in action. My wonderful hot tub is very useful for me after training for body recovery, but only in combination with cold water. Please be careful when you're performing contrast therapy. If you are planning to do contrast therapy, I heartily encourage you to do it. But do it carefully and wisely. Make sure to watch my video on contrast therapy. For that video, click in the upper left corner. Please breathe and be aware that you are breathing.